Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr., your go-to wellness coaches of www.stressfreenow.info. Our featured guest today is Dr. Robert A. Weil, Doctor of Podiatric Medicine, who is affectionately known as Dr. Bob, the Sports Doctor. Dr. Bob is the host of the Sports Doctor Show, heard on HealthyLife.net, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Central Time. He was formerly on radio station WDCB 90.9 FM in Chicago for more than 20 years. His Sports Doctor column appeared in the Aurora Beacon News and the Naperville Sun newspapers for 7 years. Dr. Bob is a medical authority in the areas of injury prevention and sports medicine who emphasizes the importance of being on top of your game mentally and physically by becoming more aware of the critical role your feet play in athletic performance. In his clinical practice, Dr. Bob successfully guides patients to pay close attention to safety and shoe fit in order to enhance their healthy well-being and prevent injuries for both adults and children. Dr. Bob places an emphasis on custom orthotics and training the foot and ankle as his specialties with many figure skating patients. His patient, Evan Lysacek, was 2010 men's Olympic gold medalist who was 10 years old when Dr. Bob prescribed orthotics in his skates. Over the years, Dr. Bob has been a podiatrist to the stars, having worked with sports celebrities such as tennis greats John McEnroe, Tracy Austin, Yannick Noah, and numerous members of the 1985 Sports Bowl Bears. Dr. Bob, hi. We're so happy to have you back again today. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be back, Christine and Dr. Bob. From one
Great.
Dr. Bob to the other.
Yes, this is such a treat. Dr. Bob, welcome you back, and we're going to continue our discussion on how to stay healthy while playing sports and prevent unnecessary injuries, including the proper care and attention to your feet. So, Dr. Bob, you have a show called The Sports Doctor. Can you tell our listeners about your show?
Okay. The Sports Doctor incorporates all areas of sports medicine, whether it's the physical side of injury prevention, injury treatment, health, wellness, and fitness, or it's the mental side where we're talking about sports psychology and various areas of focus, concentration, all involved with educating our listening audience with these great guests that I've had on for the past almost 2 years on All Positive Talk Radio, Healthy Life Radio, HealthyLife.net. My show is live from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time every Wednesday. I previously did a show, again called The Sports Doctor, for, almost 2 decades at a famous jazz blues station here in the Chicago area, WDCB, out of College of DuPage. So I've been playing around with radio for as longer than I'd like to admit in some regards. But the Sports Doctor, again, running through the theme of the show is the role of the foot in sports, but again, we feature experts in nutrition. We feature experts in coaching. We feature experts in all areas of spinal experts, neurosurgeons, etc., concussion experts, especially in this explosion of awareness in concussions in sports and this whole challenge of things like tackle football. So we don't leave many stones unturned, pardon the pun, on the Sports Doctor.
That makes sense. Dr. Bob, since you focus on injury prevention in your practice, can you briefly discuss your perspective on the mental and physical role the foot plays in athletic performance and how you use orthotics, your use of orthotics benefits your patients?
Orthotics, there are very few things in medicine, if any, that affect more parts of the body than orthotics, which go in shoes. There are over-the-counter inserts and arch supports, and supporting the arch is one of the aspects of various shoes inserts. But custom orthotics really are about joint alignment. Custom orthotics are about putting the foot and ankle and lower leg in its proper alignment. So in many instances, we're talking about dealing with problems that are being noted above the foot. Many persistent knee problems are related to the function of our feet. Many persistent low back problems or postural problems can be related. Again, our audience can imagine one person with very flat, rolled-in feet. They might imagine somebody else who's got very, very high, rigid arches. The mechanics of those feet are totally different from each other, and the kind of stresses that they might increase above. So in many instances, orthotics are used, whether it's to go into the walking shoe of a grandma who's in her 60s or 70s, who's having foot concerns or arthritis in other parts of the body, and we might be putting orthotics in the skates or shoes of an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, again, in order to properly balance or stabilize the lower extremity. And usually it's a very, very positive effect in trying to reduce stress or trying to enhance balance and alignment, because there aren't many things we do with our body that don't start with our feet.
That's absolute truth and genius. And, Dr. Bob, it seems that most people don't pay attention to their feet.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. Unless they're involved in some specialized event, the rank and file, we don't see a podiatrist. Could you tell us a little bit more, because we just really love learning from you, what the field of podiatry entails and what is it that you see? What are the problems that people come to you with?
Podiatry, chiropody, originally has been around for 100 years longer. The specialty of treatment of problems involving the foot, ankle, related areas. So podiatrists have been trimming corns and calluses. It's interesting. This is a person could walk in so much discomfort from calluses on the bottom of the foot or corns on the top of the toes. They could painlessly have these areas trimmed down by a podiatrist and dance out of the office until the next time. So corns and calluses commonly dealt with. Today, podiatry is very involved in the world of diabetes. Every 20 seconds, somewhere in the world, someone loses a limb as a result of diabetes. It's just mind-boggling. So prevention of problems that might start wounds, areas that don't heal on the bottom of the foot, sometimes also podiatry very involved in. Surgically today, podiatry is very sophisticated in correction and dealing with all sorts of problems that might be surgical of the foot and ankle. So podiatry incorporates pediatrics, where you could be working with young children, even very, very early on, children who might have in-towing or other kinds of concerns. Podiatry is involved in geriatrics. My oldest orthotics patient is going to be 100 years old in December. She's still writing books. She featured me in one of her books because she calls it agreeing to disagree when it comes to politics and religion. But I trim her nails every 4 to 6 weeks and keep her comfortable. And podiatry includes that whole gamut of treatment modalities. But orthotics, again, I tell people all the time, you want your kid to be 2 steps quicker, you want to have better balance, you want to prevent falling in seniors, which is a big, big area, then the type of shoe they're in, whether they're in some type of orthotic, can be very helpful. It's quite a wide range, and of course it's not a life and death situation, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think that makes great sense. Bob and I, the other Dr. Bob and I in our practice, really, give a great deal of attention to preventing, because it's the prevention, as you said, that's really beneficial.
Yeah, I think sometimes, prevention is a rule, sometimes is a hard sell. People usually are more involved in, waiting for problems to arise. So paying attention to prevention makes an awful lot of sense, especially, again, if you're going to be active, especially if you're going to have your children being active in competitive sports. You got to pay attention.
Well, Dr. Bob, I want to segue this conversation a little bit because in preparation for today's show, I listened to one of your shows where you had a social worker on named Catherine Snedeker. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
You are.
I was stunned by many of the things that she reported dealing with concussion. So the first thing I was stunned about is that she was talking about how she got into that area to become a anti-concussion advocate, is that her own son had 7 concussions. And then an amazing statistic she reported was that 80% of concussions occur outside of organized sports. And then the last thing that she said that really caught my attention was this thing about players not reporting the concussions, and that based on her findings, what she said that there's a difference between how male players and female players experience concussions and the non-reporting of it. And so I was surprised when she said the statistics showed that the male players that are playing in organized sports might not want to report concussions because now they could be taken out of the game. And
the famous middle linebacker, future Hall of Famer middle linebacker, Brian Urlacher, the Chicago Bears, had a couple of comments. He was being facetious, but he said, if I had a bell ringer, I thought I might have had a concussion concern. I went to the sidelines. I told them my foot hurts so that they wouldn't take me out of the game. So it's a big problem. The concussions are brain injuries. And this is a definition that a lot of times is omitted. This is a brain injury. And yes, you can get concussions in various areas that don't have anything to do with sports. You could be in a car accident, you could have a fall, you could hit your head, et cetera, et cetera. The reason the concussions have become exploded into the spotlight is tackle football, maybe hockey, and other sports where we've got collisions as a normal part of the activity. And matter of fact, there's a movie coming out called Concussion. It stars Will Smith, and he plays the pathologist who a couple of decades ago discovered in one of the deceased Pittsburgh Steelers football players this degenerative disease that we're all aware of now, the CTE, this whole dementia-related concern of a brain injury. So the awareness of concussions is now dramatically improved, which is a good thing. The problem that we talk a lot about in the area of football is that there is no way to prevent concussions, and it's the micro trauma, the constant collisions of the brain slamming around in the skull compared to direct impact. So a helmet might prevent a skull fracture, hopefully, but it can't protect slamming the head around inside the helmet. That is one of the real concerns, as we're only now looking at the tip of the iceberg. One of my frequent guests, his name is Matt Cheney. Matt's the author of a book called Spiral of Denial. It's a 100-year history of doping in football, et cetera, et cetera. He's been on ESPN numerous times, and he's a leading advocate of the fact that there's just no safe, he's an ex-football coach, he's an ex-football player, but that there is just no safe way to stay out of trouble, even though they're trying by rules changes. Now the players are twice as big, twice as fast, and twice as strong. Now, Catherine Snedeker has brought tremendous attention with her whole creation of what's called pinkconcussions.com and the girls' side of things, and the female athlete as well as the female service member in the armed forces with these traumatic brain injuries, and the fact of that sometimes the girls are different than boys. But getting to your exact point again, Dr. Bob, with the new awareness of concussions and the sideline criteria, so if a ball player admits that he's dizzy, he's disoriented, etc., They've got to take him out of the game, thank God, and they've got to get medical clearance to bring him back in the game, or whenever that is, thank God. The problem is that we don't know, medicine doesn't know, especially in growing kids, how long it takes to properly recover. It's a crapshoot. And another one of my frequent guests is Dr. Don Brady, is a psychologist, high school level psychologist in Connecticut, who for 20 years has written about and talked about these brain injuries. And he says you have no idea some of the concerns of these high school football players, whether it's confusion or memory loss or sleep problems related to this constant banging of tackle football. Again, you can play another sport. You could slide into second base and get a concussion. You could fall off your skateboard and you can get a concussion. Come down from a rebound, land wrong. There's a lot of attention. There was just dramatic rules changes, recommendations in youth soccer that they're saying before the ages of 13 or so, no heading of the ball as much as they can. There's just no way that the contact collision sports aren't one of the real culprits. And the question remains, you guys, what the heck are we going to do about tackle football? It's one thing if you're getting paid $10 million a year, you know what the risks are, you're willing to accept those risks, the league's going to pay for whatever treatment you need, etc. It's something else with Friday Night Lights and the hype of high school and youth football and the baloney that football, the organizations of football, talking about that it is quote-unquote safe is just not true.
Well, Dr. Bob, I want to thank you for your views. I just want to close the discussion of this particular area with, again, mentioning something that I found very interesting and shocking in terms of, one, again, what Ms. Snedeker was saying is that 80% or more of the concussions occur outside of organized sports, and she made a key distinction, which I don't believe, I know I was certainly not aware of, and that I don't believe maybe our listeners will be aware of. She said that unlike the male players in football, the female players often don't have trainers available that could spot that a girl might be suffering from a concussion, and then also even if she reports some of the symptoms, because I think what she said that there were 28 symptoms or so for concussion, and so like headache or mind fog, and so what she was saying that at least I came away from was that often, a girl, even if she were reporting that, those symptoms might be waved off by coaches or medical professionals. Well, that's
true. It's still of concern, but those things are really changing. Girls' sports today are as serious as boys' sports. The fact is that in a large percentage of high schools, they don't have athletic trainers. Forget the girls. They don't have it on a lot of the boys' sports. There's really got to be. If you don't have an athletic trainer available for your school, you shouldn't have a sports program, period. But, girls and boys are different. Girls have sometimes a little bit more of an emotional investment, whether or not they're going to share information with their particular coach or parents that, I haven't been able to sleep, I've got headaches, etc. So this is where someone like Catherine, people like Matt Cheney, others like a lot of these organizations are bringing more and more awareness to that whole world of concussions. But here's one of the differences when you mention 80% concussions, many times those are accidents. Concussions that happen outside sports in almost all instances are accidents. When we're talking about concussions that are a part of some particular sports, we got to take a step back and say, hey, maybe we got to take a real closer look at what we accept as safe sports for our children.
Yeah, very definitely. We'll be back in a moment after a short break with Dr. Bob Weil, the sports doctor, on Learn to Live Stress-Free.
Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Wright, Jr., the Stress Relief Doctor, co-host of the Learn to Live Stress-Free podcast series. I'm an author, speaker, and stress management wellness coach. My published study is the first to show the connection between stress reduction, grief recovery, nitric oxide spiking, and the relaxation response. And my practical application of this knowledge helps you relieve the stresses of everyday life. I have the tools to dissolve your pain points quickly and effectively. Email me to find out how you can start to feel better now at stressfreenow.info/contact. That's stressfreenow.info/contact. Have you been procrastinating about completing an important project or pursuing a treasured dream? Christine Wright specializes in helping her coaching clients to lay out clear, elegant strategies. She shows you how to quickly build your confidence to uncover and eliminate your habitual patterns of resistance and self-sabotage. Christine helps you discover those meaningful insights that will get you to do what works so you can celebrate your successes. Go to stressfreenow.info/contact to let Christine know that you're ready to live your ideal life now. Again, that's stressfreenow.info/contact.
We're back with our guest, Dr. Bob Weil, the sports doctor, on Learn to Live Stress-Free. Welcome back, listeners.
Dr. Bob, since your expertise primarily deals with the foot, what role do you believe reflexology should play in keeping the feet healthy? And do you work with or coordinate your efforts with professional reflexologists?
You know, reflexology has been around for a lot of years. It helps reduce stress, helps enhance again stress reduction. In some instances, reflexology also included in treating all sorts of different parts of the body that the feet have connections with. All sorts of different parts of the body, and I definitely feel that it's got a role. I'm a very big soft tissue fan, massage therapy. So when it involves the foot alone, I think reflexology definitely has a role. I spoke last year at one of our local Shamar school of holistic massage and reflexology. So I put both of those areas, massage therapy, many times in reflexology, in the same general area of reduction of stress, enhancement of well-being, sometimes, again, effective in helping deal with other areas of the body. I'm a big, I call it complementary medicine. Some people say alternative medicine, but that sounds like we're replacing one thing with another. We talk a lot of holistic medicine on the Sports Doctor. So I'm a big fan of acupuncture. I'm a big fan of massage therapy. If everybody got a massage once a week, you probably or twice a month, you probably would cut down 90% of some of these stress-related, anxiety-related, tense-related situations, also to enhance healing. So reflexology definitely plays a role in that whole area.
Great, Dr. Bob. I'm so glad to hear that. And listeners, since Dr. Bob is in agreement with the soft tissue approach, I wanted to point out in our archives, a while back we had done a podcast with Laura Norman, who's the one of the authorities in reflexology. So listeners, if you want to learn more about reflexology, you could check out that podcast when you go to our archives.
Dr. Bob, on your website, you indicate that you've worked with many famous athletes, including Olympic ice skating champions, as well as tennis and volleyball champions. Can you tell our listeners about your experience working with elite athletes and share some of the results they got using your services and your products?
It's a great question. Again, I was very fortunate to be involved and spend decades with Bob Guida, famous kinesiotherapist, who had athletes in so many different sports coming to him, either to rehabilitate an injury or to try to make them bigger, faster, stronger, quicker, maybe even smarter in some ways. So in the area, I've seen athletes like the great quarterback Jim McMahon of the Super Bowl Bears. Jim, unfortunately, is an example of some of the concussion-related head trauma. He doesn't remember me these years later. And one of the challenges, but was great. Walter Payton. I remember John McEnroe coming to our sports clinic as a 20-year-old punk, arguing with his father on the phone. You know, my wife at the time said, "I don't know if I can root for him, man. He's such a whiner," you know. But he was one of the greatest guys, McEnroe. in so many areas. I'm a fan like everybody else. So it was Bill Buckner, the great Chicago Cubs, wore my orthotics probably 10 years. In his, I think he had him in when the ball went through his legs. Unfortunately, in that famous episode of the World Series with the Mets when he was with Boston. And it is it's a special breed of person when they're a professional athlete or an Olympian, and you sit back and you think about what it takes, Christine, to achieve those levels, and the perseverance and the years of dedication and training. It ain't for everybody, to say the least. So I was starstruck as a fan, whether it was players in the football world, whether it was some great baseball players. We used to see a lot of Chicago White Sox. We used to also see Chicago Sting in the world of soccer, U.S. soccer players, and again, the world of figure skating. I've been putting orthotics in skates for over 35 years. I don't want to date myself or anything, but so it is a honor to deal with this and the kind of pressure many times, which is, can you get me better yesterday? I've got to play. The pressure is on. And so my hat's off to all the team doctors, the athletic trainers, the therapists, the individuals, nutritionists, etc., who work with serious athletes at all ages, because many times it's unrealistic. Give you a classic example. We all remember Monday Night Football. It's still around. I remember the players dealing with, I got to try to play on a Sunday after I played Monday night. Now these idiots have Thursday night football. You can't walk before Wednesday after playing a game in the National Football League on a Sunday. Yet, there they are out there on Thursday night. So the challenges of working with some of these athletes in various respects or their families is quite exhilarating.
It sounds it, and I want to thank you. Listening to you, I can hear your level of expertise, your skill, your compassion, your knowledge, and from what it sounds like, it was definitely a win-win, because as high level as the commitment that these elite athletes have, you certainly are demonstrating that in what you're sharing with us here today, Dr. Bob, so I want to thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you.
Great, Dr. Bob. Two quick points here. One, when you were talking about the dedication and the things that you have to give up, I remember years ago I was in Manhattan and I met Dominique Dawes and had a brief conversation with her. And what she related was that...
we treated her.
Oh, okay. In fact,
the Olympian gymnast.
Yeah, another one of your clients.
Yeah,
great.
The gold medal
Absolutely,
winner.
A superstar. Gaida worked with her.
I see. So we were right in front of Chelsea Piers in Manhattan, right on the West Side Highway. And so what she said was, although she was elated and it was very rewarding to win the gold medal and, to receive those accolades, that what she said that on the personal side that she had given up quite a bit. She wasn't living with her family. She had to leave her family to do the training.
Absolutely. That's a big deal.
Yes, she said that she gave up going to college because she had to choose. She said she couldn't go to college and do that type of training. And then she said, well, one of the blessings was the fact that she had kept her friends, her core base of friends. But I remember her, I think at the time, this is when she was playing on Broadway in The Wiz. And she said her major disappointments, because I said to her, well, why do you seem so sad? She said, well, I worked so hard. She said, with what I achieved, I thought I would be on the Wheatie box. And I said, well, the thing is that it's like...
If her name was Mary Lou Redden, she might have been on the Wheaties box.
But Dominique Dawes was not. And so what she said, she was disappointed that she didn't make the Wheaties box. But this is an issue that comes up in sports. This is like, recently I was talking to some Met fans, and I said, well, why is everyone so quiet? And they said, well, Bob, we lost the World Series. I said, yeah, but nobody even expected the Mets to make the World Series.
That's right. Hey, listen, it's always, there's nothing like winning. There's only one champion. Sometimes nobody hears about who came in second and third. I mean, you could be the Chicago Cubs. The Mets swept us. I was in between rooting for the Mets. I was rooting for the Mets in the World Series. But an athlete who retires...
Dual loyalty? What is that, dual loyalty?
Well, you guys are coaches. You know what it's all about. When you spend your whole life and your whole identity is who you are as an athlete and what you've accomplished, and all of a sudden it stops, this ain't easy. This is a real challenge. And some, it seems to me, handle that challenge a lot better than others can when it comes to, all of a sudden, not being at the top of the world in what you are doing. But I have found that most of these young stars, when we talk about things like that, like what do you think you missed? And, you didn't go to as many parties with your friends. And, yes, you moved away to work with a coach, Bella Caroli, instance with Dominique and some of these others, that they'd say, I'm very, very lucky. I think it was all worthwhile. I think it was great. But at the same time, it's a huge challenge. And if I remember with Dominique, I think her and her teammates might have been on the Wheaties box as the whole team that won the gold medal. We'll have to ask our people to check that out.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to make it into a dust up.
I didn't either. But I'm being facetious.
Okay, Dr. Bob, I want to ask you this question. Since you have had such a storied career and you've met so many amazing celebrities, both in sports and outside of sports, what would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of helping people in the work that you do?
I'll tell you, when the fact that I was lucky enough to have a young 10-year-old, Evan Lysacek, who I saw at a screening at an ice rink. I was already working with skaters for 10, 15 years before him, and I watched and shared in the achievements as he grew up and won junior titles, won national championships, won world championships, and we were gathered around a big party rooting for him when he won the Olympic gold medal, and being that experience was really something very, very, very special. Having watched somebody develop, if I live another 5 lifetimes, I don't know if I would have that kind of experience with a young kid who knew that he would become the best in the world and become a superstar. So that stands out in my mind, as well as the atmosphere of falling into this sports world with Bob Guida and what his experiences brought to the table. I think are some of the things that I really appreciate.
Dr. Bob, thank you so much for that. I know our audience is enjoying your explanation here. But again, I have to say, darn it, it's really clear you're from New York originally, because what did you say? Who knew? It's the way you said it. So I want to thank you for being our featured guest today. My
pleasure. Great to be with you.
Thanks, Dr. Bob. And again, we just really enjoyed having you back on our show. Could you tell our audience the best way to get in touch with you and to follow all that you're doing?
Absolutely. The easiest way, Christine, is to go to my website, written out, sportsdoctorradio.com. They can click on radio shows. They could look at newspaper articles. They could read all about a lot of these areas of interest that we've talked about in all areas of sports medicine. I'm very involved in childhood obesity. We talk a lot about that. Information on the website. And, of course, they could join me live on my radio show, The Sports Doctor, which is live on Wednesdays from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Healthy Life Radio, and that's healthylife.net. We've got a lot of great subjects and great guests, and they can listen to past shows and check out about which topics might be of interest if they go to my website. Also, we have a huge Twitter following in so many different areas. Twitter is very exciting, and the hashtag is at SportsDoc, D-O-C, radio, at SportsDoc Radio. It's been a pleasure. I thank you guys.
Thank you so much. So again, listeners, you can check Dr. Bob at his website, which is spelled out sportsdoctorradio.com, sportsdoctorradio, sportsdoctorradio.com, and be one of his thousands of followers on Twitter at sportsdocradio, and listen into his show at healthylive.net.
Dr. Bob, I just want to thank you again for being our featured guest today, and I want to ask you, what final thoughts or key idea would you like our audience to take away from today's broadcast?
Again, I think, we talked a lot about today about young athletes, growing kids, what's important regarding parenting some of these kids, the importance of the role of the foot, the fact that you want to include your feet as an area of interest, regardless of your level of activities or your children's activities, things as simple as being properly fitted in shoes and being in the right type of shoe, and including the importance of podiatry when it comes to the role of the foot and foot care in your overall health and wellness, Bob.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bob. Thank you, audience, for listening.
Wherever you are and whatever time zone you're in right now, we appreciate your presence and trust that you'll benefit in some way from the information delivered during today's show. We welcome and look forward to receiving your comments about our show. Please let us know if there are additional topics you'd like us to cover or a guest you enjoyed whom you'd like us to invite back. Please contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us, including learning how to get more results in your day and easy ways to dissolve your chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. That's 954-900-2179. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright, Jr. of www.stressfreenow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.